And we are live on Facebook.
Hey,
Good
good
morning.
morning.
Look at all of us, all bundled up. Every one of us.
My nose is still running from my morning walk with Dan, my my 95-pound bloodhound who is completely unfazed by the cold weather. Yeah. Yeah. Saturday when it was 36 degrees, luckily my husband took him for a walk and not me. But yeah, it's pretty cold out there. So Monday, what's going on today?
You mean
Well, I
besides your birthday?
Yes, besides my birthday. I think, well, that
Birthday.
our Tampa Bay folks are sad about the uh, Buccaneers loss last night, I'm sure.
Yep.
But the Show Me State girl in me is happy for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, did they win? I didn't stay up to watch that game.
Yeah, they won. So anyway, we're really excited today to have Scott and Kim with us on In the Zone. They're doing amazing stuff, and I don't want to uh, be the spoiler alert. But Scott, you want to introduce yourself and what you got going on, and then we'll have Kim do the same.
Yeah, hi. I'm Scott Mann. Thanks for having me on. I'm a almost 23-year Army vet. Spent about 18 years in Special Forces or the Green Berets. A lot of deployments overseas, several in Afghanistan, and had a pretty rough transition here in the Tampa Bay area when I got out after retiring from U.S. SOCOM. And, really didn't have a lot of tools in 2013 to deal with the stuff that oftentimes comes with transition, whether you were in combat or not. But that just added to it. And so, just by grace of God, I got connected to a former NFL football player who was turned actor, turned playwright, turned public speaker, and just a great storyteller. And I knew I had something to say, and I wanted to say it, but I didn't know how. And this guy showed me how to use storytelling as a way to heal myself, uh, but also as a way to bridge the civil military gap. It's a great tool, whether you're going in for a job interview, talking to your family about post-traumatic stress, or just communicating in a strategic way. Storytelling is how the brain makes sense of the world. So I studied for years and years and years under this guy, 3 TED Talks, hundreds of keynotes, national news, plays, anything I could do to just dive into this thing called storytelling. And it was so profound for me that my wife Monty and I started a nonprofit called The Hero's Journey, which is named after the framework for storytelling by Joseph Campbell. And since then, we've just worked with thousands of veterans, first responders, and military family members on finding their voice and telling their story. And we do workshops right here in the Tampa Bay area.
That's awesome. I have so much to ask, so many questions to ask about that. But let's
Yeah.
say hello to Kim and our audience, our zonies, get to know her as well.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kim Seevers, and I'm the Deputy Director for the Hero's Journey. I've been with them almost 3 years now. I worked for 60 years or lived in cold weather, winter sports land. And most of my career, I was full-time in the winter sports industry, in skiing and bobsled and skeleton. And just kind of through a fortuitous introduction to Scott, I landed with the Hero's Journey. And just in the past 3 years, the things that I've been able to experience to travel with the play Scott wrote, Last Out, Elegy of a Green Beret. We just finished a national tour with that, and reached so many veterans and military family members and civilians across the country. We have our workshops that are just the most amazing one-on-one connections with the participants that it's mind-blowing sometimes when we come out of those. And then if you don't know Scott's history, he didn't mention that he was the founder of Operation Pineapple Express, which was one of the major initiatives to bring our Afghan allies out of the country and Also some American civilians who were stuck there in August 2021. And working on that was it was not something I expected to do ever in my life. I was a gym teacher. So being part of that, there were some amazing highs to it, and obviously there were some corresponding lows that happened as well. But I'm just grateful to be working for this organization and being able to reach out and meet people like the Zonies that are on here today.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Scott, I appreciate your organization also including first responders. I mean, I'm a veteran, retired in 2014, so just shortly after you, and I also experienced the lack of resources to help service members with transition. But now that I've been out, and the nature of my company, Luminary, we sell emergency and trauma kits and tactical gear. So a lot of our customers are first responders, both agencies and individuals. And it astonishes me how the media has isolated PTS to just military service when our first responders, sorry, a little something in my throat, but they deal with it in a much more traumatic way, I think. They go on their shift and then they have their experiences and then they go home and they have to shut it down to be present for their families and then wake up, put the uniform back on, and head back into the environment. You're on mute, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd figured this out after about 4 years. But I think that's really well said, Valerie. And look, even in the worst combat zones, for the most part, we go in and we have a year there and then you're out for a year or something and then you go back. But first responders, they don't get that. They're in it every day. There is no rotation out. Like you rotate in, you go every day. And it's a persistent exposure to trauma. My middle son's who's in federal law enforcement, his best buddy is a firefighter and an EMT. And and he's a young man. And just in the short time that he's been doing this work, I've noticed a profound change in not, he's an amazing human, but you just you see someone who lives that life, who is exposed to trauma all the time. They just carry a certain weight about them, a heaviness that is very difficult to explain to those who have not, been at the tip of the spear or have experienced that kind of high stakes or some kind of traumatic event. Like, it's heavy. And so, yeah, we really we made a conscious decision to open the aperture and bring in first responders and their families, because they are, I think, foundational to this country.
Yeah, absolutely. We had an Action Zone alumni who is a Marine veteran. And once he got out of the Marines, he was firefighter EMT. And he said he experienced more trauma on the job as a firefighter EMT than he did in the Marines. So, yeah.
Just think about it by design. Honestly, if you think about it just by design, a firefighter EMT in particular, I mean, a slow day is when you're not, got your hands in somebody's goo, right?
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it's just a whole different level. So, and the other thing too, Valerie, is I don't think that we, like you said, which was very accurate, I don't think we assign, a level of seriousness to that load they carry. And there's such a stigma with it that there's work to be done there too in their community, and helping. And storytelling is a great way to do it. Like, storytelling is a great way. We call it our emotional breaching tool, because it opens people up in such a way that they almost don't see it coming, and in a healthy way, in the way that we've been using story for 70,000 years to bring people home from war. So, and from violence and from unusual circumstances. Storytelling is how we've always metabolized that trauma and come home. And yet we don't do it in this country. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. We actually, when we formed Action Zone in 2018, we brought in storytelling.
Oh, good.
Um, yeah, um, and unfortunately, we, as a nonprofit, I'm sure you feel the same, grossly underfunded, so we can't always offer the storytelling. But it was transformational
Yeah,
for the service members, also as entrepreneurs.
100%. I mean, so just for any skeptics out there, I spent the first part of my transition was, okay, what is this storytelling thing that I've just done? Like, I know I feel better. I know I've got a sense of myself. I know I'm realigned with my purpose again. I see a vision. Like, what is it though that actually happened here? So I studied with a lot of neuroscientists, social scientists, anthropologists, acting coaches who understand the science of storytelling. And the thing is, Valerie, in the last 5 years or so, because of the way that we can measure brain activity that we could not do until
Mhm.
very recently, we know more about storytelling than we've ever known before. And also just through carbon dating and looking at, our social history, we know a lot more about storytelling. There's some fascinating things about storytelling that make it the most relevant tool in a veteran or military or first responders kit bag. The biggest reason is this, and then I'll throw it back at you, but so every brain in the world, it doesn't matter what country you're in, it doesn't matter race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, every brain, according to Ivan Tyrrell, a psychiatrist, is a a metaphorical pattern matching organ. Metaphorical pattern matching organ. So it uses metaphor, story, and patterns to make sense of the world. And the brain, our brain, has a mandate to make sense of things. That's why purpose and meaning are so important, because we are meaning assigning creatures, meaning seeking creatures. Like, we're the only mammals that do that. So the brain has a mandate to make meaning. Well, the way it does it is through metaphor, right? So it uses metaphor and symbol to make sense of the world. And if you've been through trauma, if you've been through guilt or grief, you can't make sense of it, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's a white hot isolated memory. Well, what storytelling and our ancestors figured out tens of thousands of years ago is, if you sit around a fire and you share stories about lived experiences, including the more poignant traumatic ones, those inflamed memories start to restore themselves in the context of the broader experience. And you start to make meaning out of it. You start to make sense out of it, right? And it happens autobiographically, sometimes as you're listening to someone else's story. That's why the play is so popular.
Mhm.
So Kim and I are real excited about it, because we've got so much science on our side. I don't even know how many mental health professionals we have, like, cheering us on and showing us data. But what really is showing up is when these veterans and their families share their story, for like, really share it the way we show them that they can. And it's just like Kim said, it's mind blowing.
It's really funny and interesting that the old saying, the old is new again.
Yeah.
And this stuff has been, I mean, we see the cave drawings where the storytelling took place before there was much more the kind of communication that we recognize as
Yeah.
such. But it's the way societies all for millions of years have communicated how to live your life, how to do things to
Yeah.
survive, how to treat your fellow man, how to recover from things that have affected you. And yet, for all the technology in the world, the story is still the root of all healing. It
So,
really is.
so a couple of things that you said are really, really important, Rosie. First of all, we've been telling stories for as long as 70,000 years.
Mhm.
Right? 70,000 years we've been telling stories. We've only been writing our language for 10,000, right? So we put so much emphasis on the written word, but we've de-emphasized the spoken word.
Yep.
But yet the spoken word is actually how we actually have communicated at a primal level for eons. So what we've emphasized, we do some writing, but we emphasize oral storytelling, because there is this primal component to it, as you said. And then another thing that you said is really important. Civil society all over the world, and I'm not talking about one or two places, I'm talking about civil society all over the world, to include our ancestors, use storytelling as a way to heal, connect, and make meaning out of tough situations. It's how we
Absolutely.
do it. And for us in this modern mechanistic mass communication rat race that we live in, we have devalued storytelling to the point that we don't use it anymore. We don't use it. We use PowerPoint and we use sound bites and we use talking points. And no one, and that's why when you do come across a storyteller who really knows their game, you can't take your eyes off of them.
I was just going to say that, you can go to a presentation, a conference where they have speakers galore, from the time you sit in the seat until the time they let you out for lunch, and one PowerPoint presentation or video after another. But the person that stands up there and talks and tells the story is the one that they'll remember for decades after they attended that conference, every single time, especially because they make you feel something. When you begin to feel what they feel, then that is so impactful, and that lesson carries forward.
Yeah, that's because we're also emotional creatures. We navigate the world on emotion. I mean, Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Right. And that's why storytelling, because but here's the crazy part. There's actually a biological reason for that. So if we're all sitting around the campfire, 18,000 years ago, and I come stumbling into the camp and I'm all bloodied up, and I say, let me tell you all why saber-toothed tigers make crappy pets, right? How are you listening?
Like this.
Right? You're leaned in, like you are in a trance state, and you listen autobiographically to that story. Why? Because if I listen to that story, I will get drawn into that story. It's called narrative transportation, and we've all experienced it. You literally feel like you're in the story. And so you emotionally connect to the storyteller. You get the context for your own life. You make meaning out of it, and you learn lessons about the saber-toothed tiger as if you lived them, but you didn't get the blood and scars. And some of the most recent science today is saying that's why we have accelerated so fast as a species, is because of our storytelling. Yet in our civil society here at home, we have completely moved past it. We don't use it. We don't use it to come home. We don't use it to transition. And that's what we're trying to really bring it back, but not just in the instinct of storytelling, the skill of storytelling, learning the art and science, so that our veterans, our first responders, and our families can use it to bring all those amazing saber-toothed tiger stories they have for this nation that we need, because we're in trouble.
Yeah, I think also with the storytelling, when you have, or you're in the presence of a storyteller and they are so dynamic, like you said, like you're drawn in and you can visualize the story that they're telling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for uniformed services, military, first responders, being able to be that dynamic and telling their experiences through storytelling will allow civilians to really feel what they experienced.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
It bridges the civil military gap in ways that no other form of communication can. So again, think about that. Whether you're working in a corporation as like one of the few veterans in there, or you're trying to go for a job interview, or again, just talk about something that is important, but how do you bridge that gap? Well, narrative allows people to listen autobiographically. They locate themselves in the story and process their own life in the safety of your narrative. That's why we call it, in our workshop, our first workshop is called The Generosity of Scars. And it is this ability to take your struggles and your pivotal moments and repurpose them into stories that are in the service of other people. We tell stories in the service of others. And so when I think a lot of our participants go through that, and there's kind of this stigma that, well, I'll fall apart, or I can't tell my story. The reality is you can tell your story, but we've been conditioned in our civil society that if you experience emotion while doing it, that's a bad thing. Right.
Right.
Like, for example, if you got up in front of people at an event and you were recognizing someone for great accomplishments in the service of veterans and you started to get emotional, what are the two words that kind of want to come out of your mouth in front of everybody?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Fine. We've been conditioned for that. So a lot of the things that we work in, this isn't like a dump fest, you know, on emotions when we do these workshops, but emotions do come up and we have mental health professionals there with us. And our point is the storytellers that own the rooms are the ones who actually have the emotional access to the events that happen because it's part of the story.
I always
Scott,
say that,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
the two things that, I got issued a smile when I got my DD 214. And because I couldn't show emotions when I was in uniform, I cry all the time, like all the time.
I do too.
It could be Star Trek. I cry.
I cry all
Go
the
ahead,
time.
Ruthie. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, that was important too. Because it reveals something that people need to understand. Scott, for us at Action Zone, you know, it's easy for people to come to us because they know they have a business idea or they have a business that's faltering and they're seeking us out. How do you get to the people who need to know what you're sharing and need to understand how to do that when you already know that the proclivity is to say, I don't need that or I can't do that? How do you reach them?
What a great question. That makes me smile. Because it's hard, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we live in a society where, you know, the soft skills are devalued when in reality, as social creatures, like they're the most impactful. So on the nonprofit side, what we've done is the play. I mean, I'll be honest. The way that we reach people, the reason I wrote the play is I wanted to inform civilians on the cost of war. I wanted to validate and heal those who lived it. And I wanted to open people up to the power of story as a way to navigate the world. And so when you watch our play, we work really, really hard to tell that story and it moves a lot of people and it hits hard. And at the end of it, we do a talk back with the audience and the audience is really open. And you've got civilians, military, first responders, Gold Star family members, military family members, Afghans, you know, Republicans, Democrats, all sitting in there who have gone for this 1-2 hour ride with Master Sergeant Danny Patton, right, and his family as they go through the Afghanistan war. And what you have is this shared perspective, but you've also got people open and ready to listen. And when we tell them that of the 6 actors on the stage, only 2 are professional actors, people are just like, you got it. What? And it's like, no, this is just storytelling. This is just authentic, open storytelling, and it's available to all of you. And by the way, we have a workshop tomorrow morning and Saturday, you know, and
So we'll get into that. So tell real quick.
no, that's what we do at the play.
To get them in.
Yeah, because it opens them up to want to come to the workshop and like, well, okay, all right, cool. I'll go give that a try because they're so moved by the story that they're like, wow, okay, maybe I could do some version of that in my life.
Right.
And I think it's a bit more appealing. So we try to model our storytelling proficiency in front of other people and then say, look, there's nothing unique about me. I just train in this. You can too.
Mhm.
And military folks and first responders and military families, like they get that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know, I can train in that. Yeah, absolutely.
We
All right.
actually have a digital course and one of the modules in it is a veteran's objection to storytelling. And it's awesome because Scott is with one of our story coaches, Chris, who was an infantryman, was in Iraq, got blown up, you know, whole 9 yards. And he'll tell you in his story that he was dragged kicking and screaming, you know, to the first workshop. And now, man, when he tells his story, it's so moving. So Scott and Chris are talking about the veterans' objections in this one module.
Well, the
So I think
irony is even when they go kicking and screaming, somewhere in the back of their mind, they know that this is important and they know that this is going to be something good
Life
for them.
changing.
Yeah, definitely,
changing.
definitely.
when a workshop starts, they all come in, a lot of them, they've got their hoodie up, you know, and they're physically closed off to what we're
Mhm.
doing. But as our coaches start sharing their stories, and as, you know, as they start sharing with other people in the workshop, it's almost like you can see that connections coming back, you know, is validating what they went through in their life, if they're a military family member or a Gold Star, or a veteran. And by the end of it, it's like the hood is down, you know, and they've opened up. That narrative transportation has happened, and they're opened up, and a lot of them, you know, finish it and they're like, what do I do next? And we go, you come to take the mic next. You get up on the stage.
That's
But
interesting.
yeah, I love that, seeing that happen through a workshop, I
I
think
was going to say that's just the most joyous moment for a facilitator of any kind of these programs. And Valerie smiles immediately because she knows there's when they come to us, they're skeptical and maybe expecting a different experience, not what they're in for. And as soon as they start opening up and letting their guard down, as facilitators, we just light up. I think the most energized time of my days is after a first class at Action Zone, when we see them all start to, you just see the buds start to take shape, right? And you see it too in yours, I'm sure. You just see where they start to open the door enough to be receptive to what you want to help them with. And then there's no holds barred. Then they're just off on their own, and all you can do is ride the tail of the dragon and steer them a little bit, right?
So Kim, there's a lot of parallels. People talk about it often with service members and professional athletes, and I know you train some professional athletes. Have you brought this storytelling experience to them to help them with, their transitions from, whatever sport that they're playing?
we have we actually have a monstrous success story that
Mm.
a good bit of his success can be connected to one of our story workshops. I manage the USA para bobsled team, which is, they're all for the most part injured veterans, combat injured veterans. And this one guy, Will, came to our first his first camp, and he was over 300 pounds. He didn't even have a sled that he would fit in. He was addicted. He was using prescription drugs. He was abusing alcohol. He had some domestic issues. But he came, and
Single
he,
amputee.
yeah, above knee, yeah, minor detail. Above the knee amputee, was his Humvee was blown up, and his two guys were killed that day. So he carries a lot of survivor's guilt. But he came back, and then about the third camp that he came back, he realized that this was something he could do that would put USA on his back, and have a guy to his right and a guy to his left that had his six, and were going to be his battles, and went all in. But he didn't have that presence, and that translates to your athletic performance. So he came to a workshop, and he had actually done a talk for a Catch a Lift Foundation, gathering, a fundraiser, and had kind of bombed, didn't do very well. And then he came to one of our workshops and worked on the same story with Chris and Scott and our other coaches. And he came out at the end of the workshop to do his talk to the group. And it was, we were just like, where did that come from? And about a week or so later, he went and did another Catch a Lift program in New York City with 1,500 people. The people who had seen both of them were like, emailing me and texting me, just going, don't know what you did to him, but the difference was incredible. And he went on last year, he became the real leader of the team, and ended up the season winning the World Cup Golden Globe
Wow.
for the entire season.
Yeah.
And he started this year out on the same foot. But
Now he's a
the
coach. And now he's a coach. He's a
Yeah,
story.
now he's a coach. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, the
Yeah.
congratulations on that literal win, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So Scott, tell you referenced the play, so tell our audience a little bit about the play, so for the people who've never heard of it.
Yeah, so the play is called Last Out, Elegy of a Green Beret, and you can find out all kinds of information on it at lastoutplay.com. It is a program within our nonprofit, The Hero's Journey. I wrote the play about 6 years ago because I didn't feel like enough Americans understood the cost of modern war as my son was getting ready to join and fight the war that I didn't finish, And so I wrote the play really to heal myself. And then along the way, to complete my midlife crisis, I decided to learn how to act at age 50. And I started studying acting in New York quietly for a year. And then we put together a cast. We toured in 2019, 16 cities. COVID shut us down. We raised money and did a low budget film on Amazon Prime, where it still resides. We did the Pineapple Express to help Afghans get out. And Gary Sinise, I was on the news talking about the play. And a friend of mine referred it to Gary. He watched it and said, "Hey, let's put this thing on tour again." So we did. We just finished up a tour with Gary. And now we're getting ready to roll it out again in 2024. We're going to try to get it out to more places. We just performed it in Tampa at Christmas, around Christmas time. But a big one I'm excited about, if anybody's in the New York area, April 9th, one night, one performance at Staten Island, Tunnel to Towers is bringing us up, and we are performing the play at the St. George Theater, 1,900 seats, in honor
Wow.
of the all of the firefighters and police officers who were at Ground Zero. So we're just going to have all those heroes in the audience, plus a bunch of other special guests, people flying up from Florida. A lot of veterans groups are coming, and it's going to be very special. So a celebration of those who stepped into the arena on 9/11 and beyond. So that's it on the play. And again, it's one of our programs. It's something that's near and dear to my heart because I love theater, and I think it is the epitome of storytelling. So we're going to put it back out on the road probably after that performance. Look to see the play mid to late summer in theaters near you. Yeah, that's where that is. And right now, Kim and I are really putting our emphasis on getting these workshops off the ground, particularly locally, so that we can make that available.
That's awesome. I was actually in the audience for, I think it was your first performance at the Strass Center in 2019, right?
Yep. So you got to come see it again. It has evolved and changed
Okay. All right.
completely. It's a whole different show. And that's been part of the fun. Well, storytelling is a living, breathing thing, right? It's not a
Mhm.
speech. Stories are living and breathing. And so stories evolve. So this play, when we do talkbacks, you were there, so you saw the talk
Yeah.
back, and thank you for coming. Like this, we get so much input from military families and Gold Star families and Vietnam veterans. And on Monday morning, we start writing again and we adjust the script. So it's
Yeah, when you ask, if there's any veterans or people in the audience, and obviously I stood up, and I had somebody come to me after, and it's just like I was really surprised to see a woman,
really,
veteran stand up. Yeah, so yeah, it was awesome. Okay, so you referenced workshops. Kim, what workshops do you guys have coming up? Are they just local here to Tampa? Can anyone across the country participate?
We have a couple workshops coming up. One of the things that we've got going on is a Generosity of Scars workshop every third Wednesday of the month at the Clearwater American Legion, post 7. They've very graciously offered their facility to us for these events, and that can be first responders, military, veterans, military family members, first responder members, Gold Stars. And then we also have a workshop coming up on February 13th, and it'll be at the Cohen Clinic in Tampa. Both of them will be Generosity of Scars, and we would love to fill them. You can register at www.theheroesjourney.org, and there's a workshop registration link there, or you could send me an email. That's kim@theheroesjourney.org, and I'll get you the information.
and it's HEROES, plural. heroes.
Okay. What we do at the end of the show is we drop all types of information in the chat of this video. So if you want to put your contact information, websites, flyers, whatever you want to put in the chat, a lot of them will go back and do that.
One thing too, Valerie, just on top of that, the workshops are free. The Generosity of Scars workshop is designed to familiarize people with their story in a very safe environment. We have mental health professionals at all of our events, and it's very safe to familiarize them with story, and it culminates with telling their story in a circle. And then the Take the Mic workshop is you have to go through the first one, Generosity of Scars. And for those that feel like they want to tell their story from the stage, or they have to do a lot of presenting in their job, this is a way to own a room. We show, we teach the advanced skills of storytelling to include the physicality, the diaphragmatic breathing, the preparation, how to get the story, all the stuff we did with Will, so that he could go back up on that stage and change the game. So that's a full day, 2 days actually. And we run those every couple of months. So there'll be one of those coming up. And then finally, anybody watching this that's not in Florida, we'd love to have you make it down to a workshop. Or if you have a sponsored organization that, because our workshops, we will bring them to locations if people want them across the country as part of whatever. Just reach out to Kim, and when we do that, we can travel with this thing and bring it wherever it needs to go.
Awesome. Rosie, I don't know if you even know this. Russ Barnes, Dr. Russ Barnes, Air Force veteran, he created a transition course. And in that, he had an actor actually come in and talk about how to prepare for a job interview, talking about like the room and how to make it feel bigger and expansive. So just to draw your emotions away from how nervous you were with your interview.
Yeah. Let me tell you that's brilliant, because most of the things that I teach to veterans and first responders, and I'm talking hardcore door kicking, Delta guys, SEALs, the stuff that I teach them about job interviews, giving a speech, it's all from the acting world, every bit of it. It's all about how to use this. This is an instrument, it's an instrument. And unfortunately, we do a terrible job in the military of conditioning and training. We have the stoic parade rest, give the presentation. And that is probably the most unwatchable form of presentation and communication in the world. And it doesn't translate into the civilian world. It just doesn't. It's so many people do that. It's neck up communications. And so we teach people how to integrate the whole body into the storytelling so that people can't look away from you at a primal saber-toothed tiger kind of way. And that is the essence of what we teach. And I got to tell you, I learned that was the other great thing about the play, Valerie, was it exposed me to that world, which is pretty insular. Like they don't share that craft with the outside world, I guess for good reason. But all I could think of is while I was going through all that training, and I still do, I thought, man, people could really use this, like just going into a room where they feel out of place, And so we bring that to bear. It is a huge chunk of what we teach.
So, well, we went longer than we normally do, which I anticipated. So thank you so much for being so generous with your both of your times, because I know you have a lot going on. But for our zonies, Rosie, we have workshops coming up. We have cohort registration still going on. We have Action Zone Incubate that starts February 7th, Action Zone Activate that starts February 11th. Both of the Incubate is in person at the Entrepreneur Collaborative Center in Ybor. This will be our only virtual, I think, cohort this year. So for Activate, so if you're anywhere around Florida, and actually this one is completely funded by Action Zone. So anybody around the country that wants to come to our cohort virtually, you are welcome to. What's today? 22nd. I think our next workshops at the ECC are February 7th, actually. It's a big day for Action Zone, and I will put everything in the chat.
I'm really glad you remembered all that, because I am just enthralled by the hero's journey and can't wait to learn more Scott and Kim, am a huge advocate and have been a member of Toastmasters forever.
Cool.
And to me, the hero's journey and the storytelling is just an extension of that set of skills.
Yep.
And not just an extension of it, but a more internalized version of, now that you've understood how to stand up and speak and all the other things that Toastmasters gives you, this is really the next step. And so I'm really anxious to hear more. I'll be a frequent visitor on your website and hopefully at some of your workshops as well.
Yeah,
I'm really
come
excited
train
about.
with us. Come train
I'm
with us.
really
Love to have you
excited about
there.
what you offer. Valerie probably knew this coming into this, but
Yeah, great.
yeah, I'm really excited about this. This is so important. And we have ancillary partnerships, collaborations with other organizations that help use the arts for veteran healing. That if they don't know about this, I'll be making a few calls and emails today to say, did you know this existed? Because you got to know that this exists, because
Thank
it's really important. I'm really, really thrilled that she was able to rope you two into coming on. And don't be strangers. You can
won't.
always ask to come on
We
again. We love our zonies on Monday mornings and we love giving them information like this. So thank you very much for your time today. It's just been a real pleasure.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Valerie.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We'll be seeing you guys soon. Bye. Everybody have a great week. You zonies out there. Bye.
Bye-bye.